It's just good stuff. You're not getting that everywhere. Welcome in, welcome in. I know some of you said, boy, I'm glad I couldn't sit through another one of those. I love that. I think it's disturbingly beautiful in so many different levels. How y'all doing tonight? Welcome in, gatekeepers. Listen, I got snow falling outside. We got a big day tomorrow. You know, heaven knows what tomorrow brings, right? Um, God bless us all, everyone. I've had a week and a half. Uh, had a birthday. Some of you spent that with me. Thank you so much. We watched Sixth Sense on our Rumble channel on the Tuesday night at the movies. Thank you for all who attended. And boy, wasn't it great. I forgot how good that movie was. It really is. In my humble opinion, you know, I realize my humble has some burrs on it, but you know, there you go. I'm old and I don't give a shit anymore. How about you? I think that's one of the best ghost movies I've ever seen. And I'd hesitate to say, gosh, there's a couple that are just so close. I mean, I almost blur in between Sixth Sense and Poltergeist and, Then I start thinking, and some of these oldie but goodies show up, like The House That Would Not Die. Thank you, Ted. I love you so much, baby. Welcome in. One of the best mods. I'll tell you what, I got some great mods. Thank you, sweetie. How's Lord Connor doing? I heard he got some Scooby snacks made for him. Was that from Bernice? Hello, love. How you doing? Scott, welcome in. Welcome in. Eric, I see you. I'm, reading this wonderful book. Eric, drop that link. When is your book available? You guys got to get this because, one, it's so well written. Two, it comes from a place that, I don't want to throw around the word rare, but in the grand scheme of books that are written on the paranormal, I would have to say, in this case, I'll make an exception and say it's rare to have a book written by somebody that has integrity and love for the subject and the same appreciation for history and people who walked before us and blazed the trail, just survived, and put their journey down. It's so nice, to read a book that is written by somebody that even just a little bit, that you can trust. Like, I think I felt that way with Hans Holzler and some of his books, and going back over time. But to me, it's rare to be able to read a book that you can just take it as it's written. There's not a question, well, what's their motive here? What are they trying to push their narrative? Are they pulling it out of whole cloth? Are they just making stuff up? Whatever. You don't have that with this, I highly recommend it. Eric, drop that link in there. It'll be available on the February 7th. So is there a pre-order or anything, or, throw down a link to your social media so people can get in touch with it, because I'm telling you, it's great. So if you have appreciation for history and you want to read a book on the paranormal and lore, and you like, ghost stories of the Old South, and just absolutely read this book. And then on top of that, the creativity is just bursting. Light workers are just out there, this is going to be our time. I think we're just really going to burst into, our purpose here. Everybody's starting to latch on to their trade, their creativity, their ideas, their dreams. It's amazing to watch. And then we have Derek. Derek's books are going to be coming out. I think it's available now. And if anybody has that link, I'll go in and find it when we get one of our videos started here and pull it up. But there's so much going. Sin has a new book. I'm darn sure Stockton's got one. If he doesn't have one out, he's got one coming. So I just think it's wonderful. And it's not just books. It's movies. It's films. It's videos. It's podcasts. It's, opening up. Lynn's opening, I hear, opening a retreat place. She's found a way to turn, a negative into a positive, really. I mean, she had some bad experience and some horrible things happen in her family and everything else. And then here to the end, she's worked through it and turned it to the good. I hear she's going to turn her place into one of her places into a retreat for, I'll let her tell you about it. But, just so many things, every which way I look. So if you're one of them and you're getting we used to call it the go bugs to do that thing, or, decorate cakes, or, restore old cars, old hot rods, or whatever it is, just do it. I think this is the time to do it. So there's that. So welcome in. Thank you so much, Eric. So here it is. So this is going to be available instead of Small Town Haunts, Legends of Tennessee. Yep. So again, I highly recommend it. It comes from a great place and a great person, a great heart, and a lot of knowledge on that level of paranormal, where you really feel like you're having the things you already you understand about the paranormal seasoned, and then you're getting some new on a level of understanding that it takes years to do, and it takes somebody with abilities and empathy, and it's a wonderful experience. So again, all of these different venues of trying to get information and trying to understand this wonderful subject of paranormal, supernatural. It never ceases to amaze me how we can hear the next ghost story. If it's coming from a place of integrity, a place of truth, and a place of just fact. You can throw all the emotion you want in there. You can throw in your ideas and your theories, but give us the facts and tell us if it's a theory. Tell us if it's an opinion. You see what I'm saying? And try not to sugarcoat it or embellish it, because you can't learn from stuff that's made up. If it didn't make a sound, don't say it made a sound. If it didn't make you a sandwich, don't say it did. You see what I mean? We just want to learn. We can't learn from ill-gotten gains. Does that make sense? So anyhow, how y'all doing? Welcome to this week. Again, what else happened this week? We had a couple wonderful shows, had a great time. Then I pulled my back out on my birthday. So, my spirit guides, they have a sense of humor. And it's a kind of a sarcastic meanness kind of humor. It's like, my spirit guides are the kind of people that would laugh at spirits that would laugh at you when you knock your knee on the table. You just can't help it. But they're also the kind of spirit guides I feel that you have that kind of vibe with them that you're going to wind up laughing to, even though you're in pain. I think most light workers have those kind of spirit guides. Does that make sense? I did. Yanked it right out. And you know how I did it? Standing absolutely still. I swear to you, Scout's honor, cross my heart, and chocolate chip cookies. I was standing absolutely still, not doing a damn thing. And I felt it go. I felt that. And I went, what? Just like that. It's like my back's about to be pulled out face. Just you freeze. And you kind of start looking around. It's like, do I fall into the wall? Do I just like completely just let my knees go and just hit the floor? What do I do? Because you can't do anything. And I can't figure out how it's being pulled out. It's just being pulled out. And then it doesn't get pulled out like it normally does across the sciatic, that and it's down the legs and up the back, and you're just like, whoa. It wasn't that one. This was a new one. This was a happy birthday back pull. It went straight up and straight down on one side. So I didn't even know. This was completely unfamiliar to me on this one. So I didn't know which way to go. And I just stood there. And you just got to let it happen. And I'm thinking, I'm the dumbass who thinks, it's kind of a metaphor for life, So I guess when your back's getting pulled in life, you just kind of don't move till you know which direction to jump, because, but that being said, I still went out to dinner. I still got my ribeye. I got to see my sons, had a wonderful time, got beautiful, thoughtful presents. Wonderful. One of them sitting right here. It's really cool. It's a beautiful candle, and it's for Capricorns. So it's to light your way to your ambitions. I know you can't really see anything but a glow there, but it's so pretty. But the cool part about it is within the candle is the crystals that balance Capricorn for ambition. It's beautiful, thoughtful stuff. I mean, things like that. I got a beautiful Zippo lighter. I had a wonderful one the whole time I was in the military. I got it right before I went into basic, and I had it for years and years and years. And I lost it. And for the longest time I said, I'm going to get another Zippo. And I got one for my birthday. It's got a beautiful tree of life on the front. It's in my pocket. Hang on, I'll show you. Dun, 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 dun. I think some of you were on live with me when I was opening it. So there, we get a picture. It's antique, isn't it gorgeous? Tree of life, right? But you flip it, and the message on the back, same one I wear around my neck. Love is eternal. It is, my friends. It is. So how y'all doing? That's what I did this week. So I got to this day, and so many other things were happening around the house. Of course, we got the snow, and we got, everybody's got snow. Yay, snow. It's pretty. If you don't have to go out in it, you know the deal. And I got to this day, and I thought, looking for inspiration. Some I let go right to the day of before I do the show, because I don't want to force one a couple of days later, because I might be in a different vibe. So I leave a couple open just for the other side to kind of put something in my face, throw an idea out there, do something, I don't have anything. I haven't read a book or researched one, or I'm doing research on another one I'm not done with yet, blah, 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 that kind of scene. And I left this one open. And right when I usually do it and have first cup of coffee in the morning, I said, okay, what are we going to talk about tonight? Because I wouldn't mind just coming on here and just talking with you guys. And I'm going to jump on your wonderful responses here in the chat here in just a minute. Welcome in everybody in Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. Hi to everybody. I see all kinds of different places here in the chat, but I got to focus in to read it. So I had a cup of coffee and I pulled open my, where I keep all my stuff and ideas and different things. I kind of left it open. And I eventually, I think second or third video or thing I was going through, I found this, what we're going to watch tonight. And I think it was interesting because it was left over from last weekend. I was researching these I want to say Donaldson, but it's not. It's Dodleston Messages. And Steve and I kind of touched on it. And I told you then that it's a much deeper story. And I think we looked at some clips and we talked about what the messages were and how, kind of cliff noted it through. And I believe I recommended a video if you were interested more in it. I thought at that point in time, and I still really do, that Y-Files with Hecklefish and the whole gang over there did a wonderful job on this story. And I sent you all over there and said, look, if you're interested in, go dig in more. The book is called The Vertical Plan. And the second printing of that, I believe it's a revised edition with more info or whatever, by the same title, The Vertical Plan. So talking about this with Steve, what Steve and I were kind of digging into on this story was that there's more to it. It's not just there was messages and was it a hoax and could it have been a hoax and how could they have pulled it off? And, was this speech the same as the time frame whoever was writing the messages, Luis, I believe, LW or whatever. Anyhow, it's not important. Were the times matching up? Was the info matching up? All these kind of things. We touched on some of that last week. So anyway, I'm having my cup of coffee and I pull it up and I said, the video that popped up, I said, this looks interesting. It's from 1996. And the way that the show put it on was so good and told the story more like the kind that we like, and my listeners and everybody here in chat. We love it when they keep the facts, maybe do a reenactment, but don't overact it. Don't throw extra stuff in there. Tell the story. Let it breathe. Well, I was surprised when I came across this because it had a lot of the information that I was kind of referring to last week that added so many flavors and so many directions to this story. And I thought, this isn't really a time slip story or a time travel story. It's not really a alien, ethereal being, alien, interdimensional story, UFO. I don't think there was any flying objects ever seen, but maybe, I don't know. But there was definitely some communication there that seemed to come from the future. I believe it was 2109, something like that. It'll be in here so we can check. Anyhow, it's more than that. It's also a ghost story. And it's also, which is pretty much the same category, I think. I think they've been trying to separate it over the past decade and a half. But I still believe that poltergeist and ghost is all pretty much, the same, unless you're talking about an energy manifestation as something separate. That's a different story. And some people say that's a poltergeist. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that it could be both. That makes sense. Okay. So that's what I meant by this whole story being multi-layered. And I think there's something to be learned from this story. So I went through and I looked, and I do what I normally do. And I ran it through to see if we could watch it, and we can. So we got lucky. And so I guess you're meant to see it. And that's how tonight's show got picked. So if there's something in it, and I usually, don't go through so much to tell you how something popped up, but today, because of the energy in the world right now, this moment in time, think about it. There's so much going on, and it's just kind of like all got to this almost crescendo of a bzzz, can you feel it? It's just like almost like a hum, but it doesn't feel like a bad vibe. It feels like maybe spark before firework, but in a good way. I don't know. It's hard to describe. But anyway, maybe at this time, this pulled up in my search out of nowhere this morning, was able to go through, make sure we weren't going to, I could use it for educational purposes, and we weren't going to, they'll allow me the license to play it and all that kind of mess. We got it. So cool. So far, anyway. So we must be something in this that we need to hear. So I started thinking about the story. And if you recall from last week, we went over one of the messages. And I believe the message after the gentleman here, Ken, and his friend, I think it was Deb and something else, and another person, I forget the other gentleman's name from the university, but we'll get there. When they asked 2109 to come through, because the gentleman that was sending messages said, I thought you were with them. And that's how they found out about the future entity, whatever you want to call it, spirit, person, extraterrestrial, whatever, that was sending messages from the future, had already had contacted this other guy from the 1500s. It gets crazy. But what did he say? What did they say? What was the message? That's important. That stuck with me all week. They said just what a lot of the messages come back from spirits that have crossed over and come back in visitation, either via a trance medium, a medium, a psychic, other messages, other contact with loved ones, whatever. The message is, when you start asking too many questions or ask them to make decisions for you, or what should I do, or should I take that job, or should I do whatever, and they get to the point where they can't give you the answer, they usually say, we can either give you the answer and mess up and affect your journey forward, because now you'll go forward with knowledge instead of just making the decisions on your own and dealing with the consequences or the, whatever that comes from those decisions, and learning from them and following your somewhat predestined path, I guess, with free will, which is also odd, because how much of it's predestined? These are all questions I can't answer. There's just questions. So it seems like they say, we can't give you that information because it's up to you. It's your free will. We can't give you the cover to the box. It's your puzzle, baby. Good luck, So that's the same message. So to me, in 1984, when this message would have been given through a really kind of cheese grater of a word processor on a borrowed computer, then hooked up to another piece that made it a word processor, and nobody else in the house, and no internet connection, how these messages were coming through. And then the message that's supposed to be coming from this 2109 actually says something that I've been hearing from people with abilities and people with connections, and from communication with multiple spirit, saying the same message. We can't tell you that. So I don't know. Is that a common enough message to where it could be a coincidence? Is it just more like a common sense kind of message, like, we can't give you the, the answers to the questions. We can't give you the, that's cheating. We can't give you the answers to the test. You have to get it on merit. You have to do it on your own and see where you land. And then wherever you land, it's up to you with what you do with that. That's life, right? Heard a message. Here's another thing that I think goes somewhat in this wild ass quilt I'm trying to sew together here for you. Hang in there. My listeners understand. They just kind of lean in with their hot cup of whatever and just go ahead, Cisco, we're listening. We know we're going to get there somehow. And we, sometimes we don't, and we're fine with that. Anyway, this little boy, he's in the hospital, and he's waking up, I believe, in recovery after an operation. Don't have the details. Any operation, any young kid, serious. It's off the charts. Serious, right? So it doesn't matter. Obviously, very close. Probably passed and came back. At least he left his body. So he's a young boy, and he's probably about 10, maybe a little younger. And as soon as he starts coming out of anesthesia, as soon as he starts coming out of, and getting his wherewithal, I mean, you could tell he's still thirsty trying to speak, that kind. If you've ever had a loved one you sat with, you know what I mean. And he's saying, Mama, you don't understand. You don't understand. I saw him. I saw Jesus. He said, he doesn't look like it in the pictures. He said, he's got short hair and a beard. And his eyes were the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen in my life, Mama. You keep telling me I have pretty eyes. I've got my eyes ain't nothing compared to his. And he's just trying to say it, but he's saying all this very slowly in like a whisper, like a struggled speech coming out of a real fog, And somewhere in that message that he was telling his mom, he said that the reason, the message from him to the son for the mother was, he answered your question, Mom. He answered your question. He told me to tell you. Now imagine how much this would floor you. Just imagine. Here's your kid coming out of surgery. He's okay, blah, blah, blah. And he's saying this. He says, the reason you went through, here's the answer to, he said, he's answering your question, Mama. Here's his answer. The reason you went through so much and everything you went through as a little girl was because it made you who you are today, and you couldn't be that without it. And then he kind of giggled a little and he said, "Did not forget. And you know this. You say it. Now you can believe it," or something along those lines. It was amazing. So those two things put together, they can't tell you because they don't want to mess up your journey. They don't want to influence the path you choose. They want you to do it on your own. And also the part of the hard times and the struggles, like we talked about last week. Because if you don't go through those, it's like demasking. It's like iron on iron, making it sharper, making it stronger. If we didn't go through those times and survive those things and gain that wisdom the hard way, we couldn't be the people we are today. And we can't have the cover to the puzzle box. We have to keep struggling with our peace. But if we just let go and breathe and understand all those things, we don't have to struggle with our peace. The peace will be ours. And then they'll naturally fit into those places. Some will be bad choices, some will be good. But we have to go, okay, I understand why I did that now. And it probably wasn't right. And I probably had to talk myself into it too much. And about the third reason I told myself that it was okay for me to do this, I should have realized I shouldn't do it at all. Whatever those situations may be, whatever choices you may be making, whichever things you've got to pick in the next 5 minutes or the next 5 days, next 5 months. think about it. Go for it. Just be the best you can be. And nobody is going to be able to give you the answers and tell you what to do. Does that make sense? Not even the other side. We only get so much. But I think there's some in this story that we can gain. That being said, for whatever reason, whoever needed to hear that, that's for you. Because that came before coffee. So there we go. Hey, RP, how you doing, sweetheart? Good to see you. And Renice, Ted, welcome in. Eric, of course. Scott, of course. Henry, absolutely. Good. Has everybody seen Vixen? I hope everything's cool there. All right. So this Tuesday, hey, Catherine, welcome in. Do you guys have any questions? 15 degrees and falling. Is that a temperature or is that where you're at in life? Because I'm not sure. That might be a good place. I'm not sure. Where would 15? I'm not sure. What does that mean to you? Rumble. Oh, you got. Oh, Jim, welcome in. Hey. Over there at the Rumble. Good. That means you can be here for. Let me give you. Here's a donut. See, I'm still working it out too. Let me try that again. Pardon me, everybody. Come on over here at Rumble. If you're not, here's a poo. If you're not on Rumble, you're missing the movies. I think we had a great time Tuesday watching Sixth Sense. The movie we saw the week before that was Fallen. Denzel Washington. It was great. There's so many movies to pick through. So let me tell you what I'm doing. My idea for Tuesday nights at the movies, okay, is movies we can learn something from, or movies that I use often in reference to explain a situation, because if you haven't seen it, what good of a reference is it to you? I mean, how long had it been since we had seen Sixth Sense? We talk about it all the time. Like, I See Dead People, that young boy. And I talk about cases or whatever where I know a child is going through exactly that. You can picture it in your mind what I'm talking about, right? On top of that, I also want to show movies that we can kind of get new ideas, test theories, get more data, just more of things that got it right, which is why I showed Fallen, because with Fallen, you're going to pick up stuff in that. Now, I can't vouch for every, the ancient stuff they were talking about, all that, a lot of that is based on, the more you dig, the more, it's based on fact in a lot of situations. Sometimes they embellish, like how long can it stay outside of the body and spirit before it dies? I can't vouch for any of that. Are those rules? Hey, Vixen, how you doing, sweetie? I was just talking about you. You must have heard me. I can't vouch for little things like that. That would have to be researched, and each one is going to be different, and everything has different rules. I don't know who makes these rules, and I sure as hell don't know where the book is. Hey, Froze, how you doing, baby? So I showed Fallen because so much of that is true. The little finite details might be a little off here and there, but you get the gist. The next one I believe is going to be either Nefarious for the same reasons, or we're going to watch The Ravine, or I'm going to do a double feature. And if I can get away with it on Tuesday, I might just do that. Because if you've seen either one, watching them together, I think would be it'd be a double feature, it'd be a little late for some. Maybe we can start a little early. Maybe we can, I don't know. I'm trying to create a pattern so people can find us on Rumble easier. But I think we could probably pull that off. Because I would love to end something as trying to get it right, darkly enlightening as makes sense to me, as Nefarious is, and then maybe back it up or bookend it with something that's extremely revealing and enlightening in a very dark place. So I think that'd give your vibration and your all your light worker energies a real boost in both sides of the yin and yang of this spiritual warfare, and give you more tools to put in your toolbox. Because we don't just watch them for entertainment. We watch them. These are learning tools to bounce off, to spark conversation, questions, theory, debate, whatever. Because I think it hones us and gives us a little more strength for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, when we got to go back out in the world and deal with the real demons. And, and the real struggle, because the struggle's real, and however little it may be, if you've seen anything as far as ever been in a crisis or a situation like a lot of our brothers and sisters are right now in California, or here recently in North Carolina, Tennessee, or Florida, or name your place, name your tragedy and chaotic event. You find out that it doesn't take long for the ugly to come out. Almost like it was right there on the surface, just waiting for a chance. And here recently, we've seen a lot of that. It's almost like it got so loud there for a minute, it felt like it was a struggle to survive, like a death rattle. And now I feel like it's almost not done, not by a long shot, but I think it's wounded. So, as unladylike as it may sound, I say we don't let the demons up, we kick them right in the nuts, even though it's down. Because, honey, once you don't let evil up. You picking up what I'm putting down here? So the more we can learn, the more we can discuss amongst ourselves and get to the point where, hey, I'm not crazy, I really saw that. Hey, I'm not crazy, I really felt that, or I sensed that was going to happen. If you're feeling right now as a light worker that some of your senses are getting sharper, or that information is coming faster, or you're getting downloads and things like that, it's happening to a lot of people. It's all over the place. It's amazing. So I say lean into that torpedo and just keep getting more and more information. Just keep it coming like Skittles, baby. Just keep it going, because the more you just stay, keep that muscle memory, that your abilities and everything else, just keep them working. Just like don't skip leg day. Keep it going. Just like you would watch, say, play chess to keep sharp, or solve murder mysteries or true crime or court cases or whatever you might do to try to keep that part of your brain sharp. This is what's happening now. Your supernatural, paranormal, that consciousness is just like sparking. And I think the whole world, that energy is going around. So you're seeing all kinds of things. You might not be hearing about a lot of the good stuff, but I think you're starting to hear that, even though you're hearing a lot of the bad too. Like the fires, and it's like one tragedy before that one even ends, here comes another one. Banga, 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 banga. Remember what the little boy said? Why you went through all that stuff as a little girl. We don't know what, we can only imagine. Because it made her the woman she is today. And he also finished up by telling him to tell her that young man was going to grow up and she was going to be extremely proud of who he grew up to be. What a message. Those messages, when they're given out, they're almost given out to everybody, because you can take from that hope, you can take from that connection. Love is eternal. So you can get through the road rage with the demons. Because there's all kind of levels of them. Some of them are just really tired people that have had enough and are at the wit's end. Some people are batshit crazy. Some people found out they're batshit crazy, went up a couple notches here recently. So we're definitely going to have to do something about that. We're going to have to get people some help. We can't keep having people crawling the streets, pooping in water fountains and eating geese out of the lakes and, frying dogs on the sidewalk and shit like that. I'm telling you what, there's some crazy places on earth. Really, all we can do is start with square foot of real estate that we're in. I try to make it better. And we come on here and we say, hey, I made it through another week. Here I am. Still got our lights on. Is your candle still burning? I hope so. It's good to see y'all tonight. So this video, I think I'm going to play it about 10 minutes at a time. It's a good full story. I'm really glad they're letting me show it to you. And I think it's about 30, 35 minutes, something like that. But within here is a lot of information about this case that just didn't get out after the 90s, like into the 2000s. So again, there has been a couple cases like this that we've talked about before, where at some point in time there was a crossroads. Either a book came out or there was an article, and then something else happened, maybe a certain amount of interest in the internet or whatever it may be, and somebody ran with that information. It just shot off like that. I think there's a couple Lizzie Borden and maybe I can't remember what the other one was. For sure Jack the Ripper. And it just takes a left and goes this way, and nobody bothers to dig back to the original information. That seems to happen here, unless, I guess, if you go through the books. So again, it all depends on, in this case, just like any other, where you start your research from and how far back did you go and where did they get their information from. So again, just like any other case, I normally say the closer you could get back to the original documents, the first prints in the books or the first articles written in paper, periodical, newspaper, magazine, whatever the case may be, the more information you're going to get, the fresh stuff, before the hard left started coming, where somebody just made something up and somebody took it as fact and went that way with it. I think that might have happened in this case, because everything that I've watched on this event that seemed to come out of the 2005 to present, it's focused more on just the messages, and possibly in some good cases the backstory history on what these characters really did back in the day in the 1500s, as much as it could be pulled up, like that, was that guy really there? Was he really, at this place he said, was that really the king at the time? How old was the king? All these little details. So this one, I think we got lucky because it was done in the 90s. It was done in, it's BBC. And I think because of its closeness to the case, the availability of journalists being able to go out and talk with, witnesses that were, and be in that area and everything else, I think that definitely has a benefit. Plus, it was closer to the time. This happened in 84, and I think this was made in 96, so it's just a little over 10 years away from the actual event. So maybe that's why we're getting more of the ghost stuff that was going on, because I think this is a great ghost story. Why do I think that? I'll give you this, and then we're going to watch a little piece of it. And I definitely want to go over the chat again and make sure I'm caught up. But I wanted to get this part out too. If you told me a ghost story, simple, just a simple little event, there was a vision, and, had an idea. It might've been a monk, and I went to the library and I looked it up, and, we didn't know there used to be a monk, monks here, back in whatever day. And where he walked through. The stuff that seems to stun us is like, well, he walked through this area, and then I found out there used to be a door there. Boom, you know, that kind of stuff. We're like, oh, that explains it. Like that really explains anything, because ghosts can go in and out of this, or sometimes they stop and knock on the door and then they walk through the wall, and you go, well, why would they do that? You know, it's a ghost thing. You know, it's both can be true, you know. That I think that one and the whole 3:00 thing is like 3:00 where, you know, 3:00 wherever you are. It's not a, never mind. It doesn't matter. But it's funny. This, if you told me that, you know, in a ghost story, that's at the point where everybody kind of in the ghost story, everybody goes, oh, wow, that just, it kind of gives a little more validation, you know, in those cases. If you just had that much, there used to be a door there. Used to be monks who lived here. Nobody knew it. We had to dig it up, you know, that kind of stuff, dig up the information. That solidifies a good ghost story. We know plenty like that, right? This one, the guy who's writing this, Luis or whatever they were calling him, because he had several different names. That's why I can't really, apparently, if you believe the story, he was like nervous to give his real name because he was afraid he was going to be, you know, burned as a witch or whatever. I can't remember, but understandable. You know, they were hacking people, drawing and quartering and spiking people and all kinds of things back then. So who's to blame him? Anyway, he put in something about his house, and you know, you're living in my house. Hey, Sarah, how you doing, sweetheart? Hey, I'm coming. How you? Something about his house, and that his house was made out of red stone, rock, stone, whatever. I know it wasn't brick, something else. And everybody just, you know, at the university, well, that just, you know, shows it's a hoax and everything else. There is no red stone here. Nothing's made out of red stone, whatever the, you know, specific thing he said. And of course, later, not much later, months later, they're digging around because they're renovating, of course, come across a foundation of an old structure. Guess what it's made of? Redstone. So there it was. I'll shoot you on a bus, Sarah. So drive safely, sweetheart. We love you. You and your son. Hope you're both doing wonderful. And hi to everybody out there. You know, those of you that listen to this and do these kind comments, you know, I've had people from New Zealand, South Africa, you know, just hi from South Africa. I listen all the time. You lift my spirits and everything else. And I just love that. Lift your spirits, you know. It's got so many, it's like a double entendre. I'll take it. So hello to everybody. Welcome in, and thank you for your kind words, and we're glad you're here. So that kind of gotcha validation. I mean, how would this person know that's in this conversation, in this, you know, crappy 1980s computer, not even hooked up to the internet, know about the red stone? So that's a gotcha ghost thing. You know, that's, he said it and then they found it later. So is it a prediction? Is it, you know, is it somebody who knew they were going to find it and covered it back up, and that they were, you know, doing a hoax, and, you know, said, oh, well, eventually we'll get to the red stone and they'll find it because I know they're going to dig over there, and you can't wait for that day to happen. It doesn't make sense. So to me, this is somebody communicating with knowledge of the past and in some ways the future. I think it's a solid ghost story. I think it's a solid energy combination story. You've got your poltergeist. You've got all of this kind of action. You even have the stacking of the chairs, just like in Poltergeist. You know. And again, this was it's across the pond. Okay. And it wasn't in America. But I find that America rips off an awful lot of the British stuff. Like they do it first, like Ghosts, which was done better, in my opinion, than the American version. It's so many different things like that. And then they do it, and, you know. So I was even wondering, oh, did they get the idea? Did Spielberg pull that whole chair stacking thing? But that's not the only haunting that's ever happened. It's like, did Spielberg pull the whole thing from, the Black Cemetery? No, Black Hope Cemetery. Where they just moved the headstones and, built the development on top of the graves. No, that was already happening. He got the idea from it happening in another development in another state earlier. I mean, it happened so much. There was 3 cases of that going on while Poltergeist was playing in the theaters. That's insane. And we keep looking at this subject like ghosts aren't real. UFOs aren't real. Aliens aren't real. Bigfoot's not real. Dude, something's got to be real. There's way too many cases. There's way too many cases. Way too many stories. Way too many witnesses. Way too much to not have some truth behind it. And I think this story got overlooked for whatever reason and not appreciated for what it really was. So I'm going to shut up now. And I'm going to look at this chat. I love y'all so much. Feels so good to come on here and just tell complete, just throw it out there in the inner tubes for any and all to hear, absolute gibberish and feel good about it. But I believe what I say. Hey, how you doing there, Froze? Flying through space on a blue rock ain't real. There you go. What we could all be in some kid's video game, We'd all have Cheeto dust all over the controller and monster drinks and all that stuff and just made us all up. We're just an ant farm for some 13-year-old kid, all hopped up on aspartame and despair. No wonder the spirits are coming back to tell us to wake up. Listening and lurking. Are you lurking, Sarah? Good to see you. I'm so glad to see everybody. You even sent me a kangaroo. It does. Doesn't it sound crazy? Then you got the ones that say we're on a pancake. And they're so, I've never seen such stuff as people arguing about those two things. I'm thinking, it doesn't change a thing for me. The sea's blue, not the rock. Yeah. You know what? That's true. That's true. All right. So let's get to it, huh? Let's get cracking. How long did I go off for? Holy mackerel, 55 minutes. I could have gone another 30 easy. Easy. All I need is one person to touch the top and to go off in that direction for a little bit. And I love it when I can sit here and I go, okay, Spirit. Sometimes in the show, I sit right before and I say, hey, Spirit, somebody needs to hear something, just give it to me and I'll say it, And sometimes I'll go off for like 10, 15 minutes. I go, wow, what the hell? What the hell did I say? I don't even realize it. It's weird. It's been happening a lot lately with doing this. Hey, Midnight. Hey, Daryl. How you doing, honey? Good to see you. So, I explained about, hang on, let's see. Get over to Rumble, Tuesday night at the movies. I think we're going to do Nefarious back to back with The Ravine Tuesday night. I'm going to shoot for that. I also wanted to put out there, does anybody have a good, clean copy that I can play Nefarious, but it's on YouTube, so I'll have to stop it when the commercials pop up. If you're okay with dealing with that, I'll get them as fast as I can, but I don't have a copy without that. So if somebody's got a copy of that and they want to drop it in my email or whatever, please do. If not, no big deal. Everybody in here, there's a couple of people that send me some movies because they know what I'm doing with it. I'm not making money off of it. I'm not, we're just learning education. And, I have some great ones. I have Ghost of Mrs. Muir. I have House That Would Not Die. So I'm looking forward to a night on that. I'm trying to get another night in. And I'm trying not to step on any toes. And I'm thinking it's probably going to be Thursday. So that'll be our night for, like fun ones. Like the Ghost of Mr. Chicken and stuff like that. Comedy Thursday to get us through to Friday morning. Something like that. That's what I'm thinking about doing. With a paranormal UFO kind of theme, where Tuesday night is a little bit more serious. It's like, a little bit deeper, because there's definitely information I feel it needs to get out there. And if I'm going to spend my time, I'm going to try to get some kind of value for you guys in there, as well as entertainment, because you can go anywhere and watch anything now. You know, you can get in there and those shorts where show of hands, how many people's ever gotten stuck in a Facebook short or an X short chain where you get in there and you're just scrolling and you're like, how long have I been looking at cat videos? Holy shit. There's 30 minutes I'll never get back in my life. I'll tell you what, it'll get you in trouble too. My cat caught me looking at other cats on the internet. It wasn't pretty. Let's just leave it there. You don't need to know details. You just need, trust me, if you know Spirit and Bucephus, and forget about it. Helen Wheels, you piss her off, let me tell you. It might take hours, it might take days, but she's going to get you. She's going to do a little something. She doesn't forget. She holds a grudge like it's got a handle. So, yep, there you go, Vix. This couple froze you too. Father Goose. Every day, Gerald, yep. You get stuck and go, man, what kind of black magic is this shit? It's like, what kind of spell crap they got going on? We just go, next time. It's like, whoa. And you come out of it and go, wow, there's something in there. There's something going on. So shut it down, shut it off, get a book. You know, even if you're watching a movie or something like that, I find that watching black and white movies helps come out of that. You know, you too, RP? LOL, froze. Yep. How you doing? Hey, Chris, welcome in, honey. And thank you guys so much. I wanted to thank you so much. If you've sent a rant and I missed it, it's not, I'm working on it. Again, I've ordered a couple things, try to get my phone up to where I can see all the chats at once. Right now, I can't get the pop-out chat to come on StreamYard. StreamYard doesn't accept Rumble chats. So I'm all over the place. I can see some of them that come up in Rumble. Like I see right now, you know, LOL Cisco from RP, but I have to look over at my phone down here. So I'm trying to get something to get my phone right there so I can see all of it at once. That would be cool. So I'm still working on getting, so bear with me, but we're getting there because I have to do it, you know, like a poor girl too. I can't just snap my fingers and hire somebody and have it all fixed and have fancy, you know, lights everywhere and all this other stuff. And I don't hire people to push my buttons. Trust me. I push my own damn buttons. Don't take that the wrong way. Okay. So what are we going to do? We're going to watch the vertical plane. Now, before we get going on that, I wanted to read, just catch up real quick from last week, just the introduction to it. So it's the Dodleston Messages. Okay. So Meadow Cottage in Dodleston, England was an 18th century brick stone cottage style house owned by a man named Ken Webster. Now, there's some semantics here. I don't know if he owned it or he was renting it. I'm not 100% sure. I've heard both. But again, like I said, that's that 2005 up kind of where the story kind of got changed a little bit. See, 2023 movie. Gerald, what are you asking me, hon? The Nefarious? I'm looking for Nefarious. I have a copy. Who Play the Ravine plays good, pretty well through. But Nefarious, the one on YouTube, the only copy I can find out there that I can play, I can share screen it, and it's but it's got commercials, so I have to, the 5-second skip. If you guys can deal with that, we can get through it. Unless I can find a better copy. But I'd like to play that one Tuesday. I just feel like the timing, for some reason, something good wants me to get that out there. So that's why I'm struggling for that one. Even ahead of the ones I already have. There's a timing thing for Tuesdays. That is why I'm going to get back into crafts, making scarf. Oh, that's wonderful. Prayer beads using Scottish staghorn and 3,000-year-old bag oak beads from... Oh, God, that sounds fantastic, Vixen. Wonderful. Oh, my goodness. I push my own buttons. I do, I mean, come on. I was asking Nefarious 2023. Yes, baby. Yes. Thank you, sir. So put the word out. Thank you, sir. Sounds amazing, Vixen. Doesn't it, though, Froze? Okay. Well, okay. Train pulled over. Okay, here we go again. We're back on track. So, yeah, I don't know if he rented the damn thing or if he owned it. Who knows at this point. Dating back many centuries, the house was bound to have many secrets hidden deep in its foundations. Ted could tell us a little bit about that. He's got bones in his... Don't you have bones in your wall, Ted? maybe he didn't want me to say that out loud, but there it is. Ken Webster, a high school teacher, had... Oh, wait a minute. Let me take this thing off. Good God. Here we go. Look at this. Can't read my own stuff. Covered up my own logo. Come on now. Come on. We're almost there. Come on. Here we go. Take that off so you can see. Okay. Ken Webster, a high school teacher, had recently relocated to Meadow Cottage in the village of Dodleston, 4 miles southwest of the town of Chester in northwest England, with his girlfriend Debbie and his friend Nick. Okay. So there's that. That gives you a little bit of the start in case you didn't remember where we're going. He started to get... I think they borrowed a computer from... He was a teacher at the university. Borrowed the computer, and then there was another part he borrowed that put it together to make it this like this kind of MacGyvered a word processor out of it. I wanted to get you the picture of the book. I know I had... Here it is. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. The book that Ken Webster wrote is called The Vertical Plane. And I believe what this illustration that we're looking at here is trying to reveal and kind of illustrate to you is what Ken was envisioning the man that was talking to him would be like in his time. And he kept talking about a box of light, basically a box with light in it that he was able to talk to Ken through. And where he got this box of light from was the entity that referred to themselves of being from the year 2109. And that's how this guy referred to him. That was what basically the name they called him. Oh, yeah. In this little video that I'm going to show you, they tell the story about the picture in the Jaguar. So Ken had a picture of his car, and it was a Jaguar, and he left it by the computer. And this Lucas guy from 1500 was calling it, what did he call it? He could see the couple in the Meadow College. He told them the different stuff they did all the time. And he left the picture on the table, and his pen pal, this guy from 1500, said, "I have found your picture of the cart, but it is a crude thing, for without the horse, it won't go far." So there was all these kind of interesting things coming up in the correspondence back and forth too, that really showed that this guy from 1500 was seeing what they were doing, but didn't quite understand it, was trying to refer to it in his terms, what he understood. I think it's a great story, and we're going to get on with it. And I just think there's something to learn here. I really do. So here we go. Without further ado, Vertical Planet.
Our final story tonight centres on a computer like this. This is a BBC Model B dating back to 1984. Today, of course, we use our computers to send email messages or to communicate with each other via the internet. But 12 years ago, such technology was still a thing of the future. Now, machines like these couldn't be connected to a network, and to store information from them, you had to use a floppy disk like this. So, when Ken, an economics teacher, and his girlfriend Debbie said that messages were appearing on their BBC computer at home, there seemed to be no conventional explanation. Even more so when the writer of the messages claimed to be living in another time. Ken and Debbie have helped with the making of this film, although they chose not to appear, so we've dramatised their story. It's in 2 parts, with the conclusion next week.
We have both of them tonight. I put them together for you. Don't you love me? You know you do. I love you. Bacon, bacon. Yes, please. Love that sound. Don't you love that sound? You know coffee's coming. Don't put sugar in it. Black, please. Don't mess up coffee.
Ken, come here.
How strangely you speak. Though I must confess that I've also been badly educated. You're a worthy man who has a fanciful woman, and you live in my house. Since your half-witted fool ripped my house apart, I've had trouble sleeping. It was a great shame that you stole my house.
Ken,
Lucas.
when did you type this?
I haven't touched it.
Well, I certainly didn't. What's it supposed to mean?
It's a school computer. It could be anything on it.
But I'm sure this was empty.
Looks like Shakespeare. Oh, come on. We'll look at it tomorrow.
This is what I'm talking about. This is pretty cool. This is a haunting. Now, whether the two are the same, and don't forget about the footprints going up the wall. 6 toes the footprints had.
I haven't got a clue where it came from. Unless somebody broke in and typed it.
Well, anything missing?
No. He left more than he took.
At first glance, I would say it was Middle English.
Chaucer.
Don't recognise it.
Well, is it definitely medieval?
Well, I could always check the vocabulary in the OED, I suppose.
Ah, that'd be great. Thanks, Peter.
Why don't you leave them a message? Try and catch them out.
Come on then, what else shall I type?
Ask him who the king is. Ask him how old the king is. Ask him how does he write to us.
Okay.
Now, this is interesting because here comes where he's speaking about, I believe, the light box, the box of lights. I love obsidian. Love, love, love. And thank you guys for all the PayPals too. God bless you. God bless you. You can't hear it? See if I can turn it up. Do you got headphones, sweetheart? That's so poltergeist. It was cat food cans, chairs, tables, all
King,
kind of
course,
stuff.
is Henry VIII, who was 46 years old.
6 and 40. Born in 1500. That means Lucas is writing from 1546.
What is this strange box of lights that makes the writing?
Quite a correspondence you're having with this Lucas. Somebody's pulling a hoax. They're doing a damn good job. The language is spot on for 1546.
Can you be that accurate?
If you're a good linguist, yeah. Mind you, he's making some historical errors. He says he went to Jesus College, Oxford. Well, Jesus College didn't exist in 1546. It was founded 30 years later.
Oh, thank God for that. So it is a hoax?
And what's all this about a tiger?
Oh, he means my Jag. I left a picture of it by the computer. The bugger's nicked it.
Maybe you've got a poltergeist, Ken. You get them a lot in old houses where there's been building work, especially if there's a sensitive young woman in the house and it's on a ley line. Are you on a ley line, Ken?
let's stop it there and unpack that a little bit. So we've got, from what I've read on this case, multiple instances of turning your back, very much like in the scene in Poltergeist where Carol Ann's mom walks across the kitchen. There's nothing there across the open floor. She goes, opens the refrigerator, puts something in, turns around, stack of chairs out of nowhere. That's the kind of stuff that was happening to these people. Cat food cans was another instance. The chair that was on one leg and just kind of balancing like that. All these little things. Then the footprints started. Now, when they started renovating, again, there's one of those haunting cases where you start renovating, you start tearing out walls. Eric can speak to this, and start doing that. They say that you can stir up the spirits. Now, what does that mean? When you say something like that, it kind of leaves it out in the open. Like, what do you mean stir up the spirits? You mean you disturbed them? Disturbed them in what way? You woke them up? You kind of like knocking on the door and they like, what are you doing here? What are you doing in my house? What do you mean by that when you say you stirred the spirits up, you disturbed the spirits? Were they in their own like peaceful little place and everything was chill and they were sitting at their writing table, maybe writing, they were eating, they were having their coffee, they were doing their thing. And then all of a sudden they noticed you because somehow by you starting to tear down walls or painting walls or ripping up wallpaper, it brought you a little bit into their time frame, their dimension. Very odd questions. But think about it. What does that mean? You disturb the dead. And I'm kind of emphasizing that because in these conversations, this LW mentions that in one of his conversations, in his timely English, he's giving out these little details. And one of them is when you started, I can't remember how he put it, but it meant this. When you started tearing up my home, I had a hard time resting, or I could no longer sleep. When you take those little things that the dead are coming over and saying, if this really is a guy who is dead, not a hoax and some other kind of crazy stuff, we have to go on the fact that, it could be somebody at this point. What does he mean by that? So, I don't think it's as simple as the hammering woke me up, or, I heard you're ripping down my wallpaper and I'd come up, clawed my way out of my grave and, crawled down the street to come and see what was going on. I was asleep and you took down my favorite picture or you changed the color of my living room and that woke, I'm over here. I came back from the other side just to, give you what for or to make problems for you. That makes more sense to me. It's like, how dare you? I come back here and I visit back and forth. And every time I come back and I visit, I'm able to see it the way it was when I was here. Maybe the changes aren't so much that it's so disturbing. And then all of a sudden you start ripping out the staircase and, knocking out walls. And now I'm going to hang around more and go, what are you doing? And now I'm going to go, hey, and bang on something and go, quit doing that. I'm going to bang some cabinets. I'm going to knock something over. I'm going to bang doors and go, don't you touch that wallpaper. Is that what's happening? Because that's what seems to make more sense to me. You stirred it up. I don't think means like, I think it's so easy for us to take, you woke him from his grave. It seems so silly to me. I don't think we're waking anybody up. I just think we're getting their attention. And maybe somehow that attention is the same as when you walk into their area, wherever that may be, and you have a certain energy coming off of you. You're going through something, you're depressed or whatever, and this person was depressed. And all of a sudden they recognize the energy and somehow connect into yours, even for just a little bit. You're kind of melding those energies together because it's a recognizable energy. Misery loves company, that kind of thing. You're like draws like in more ways than one. It may just be similar to that, where now we've got their attention because, hey, my wallpaper, how dare you? And you happen to be there because they were already connected to that area in the first place. And as soon as you start paying attention to their stuff, you're connecting into their energy. And now you've got that flow back and forth. And your commonality isn't so much the energy that you're giving off, but the attention that you're giving to a solid, a physical, that you both are interested in. That makes more sense to me. What say you? So this also had in there about the picture, which again, one of the references that this person was seeing what they were doing, perhaps hearing some of the things they were saying, the way he was speaking, it wasn't so invasive as far as personally invasive. It was more, I see you have a goodly wife or a fancy wife. The way you speak, which is funny because they're both teachers. Okay. The way you speak, I thought it was kind of funny. He kind of referenced that and he said, it's okay. I'm uneducated myself as well, or something along those lines. Of course, he didn't say that like that, but in broken old English. There's a lot of talk in this about finite details. Like he mentioned the college he went to, but only one time that I know of, the 15, I think it was 46. There's a couple of references to around the time as far as who was the king, how old was the king, did you go to school, where did you go to school? Obviously, this guy went somewhere, had an education of some sort. He could spell, he was literate. There's a conversation that comes up later that we'll hit on to where they're saying they wouldn't be using certain words in this time that they used in the messages. Therefore, it must be a hoax. I don't tend to put a lot of weight on some of those details because here's the thing. You're not actually having a full-on conversation with somebody. You don't have the inflection. You don't have the face-to-face. You don't have the emotion. You have just like we're texting now without the emojis, right? And if a professor you go to that's a linguist or whatever and says, okay, in that region, in that time, they would have never used that word. Well, I look at it and go, what about all the details we don't have? Did he live in that region all his life? Had he ever been a traveling, Fuller Brushman? Did he go outside the county? Did he get an education somewhere in an earlier part of his life that we may not be privy to, where he could have picked up this word? You're focusing on, all of these tiny little things that could be explained away with a little extra detail, with a little extra information. So to me, it doesn't completely wipe out the entire story. Does that make sense? Okay, here we go. Back on it.
I don't know.
Sorry about the sound. That's as loud as I can get it, babies. I'm sorry. And don't forget about the creepy footprints that would not go away when they washed them. And yeah, they're on a ley line.
So are we on a ley line or not?
Right smack on top of one, actually.
You're really beginning to believe in Lucas, aren't you?
Good night, Scott. Love you, babe.
So, we could have an open line to somebody living 400 years ago. I know how that sounds, but just think about it for a moment.
Wonder if you'd like a cup of tea. Bloody hell.
My friend, pray what strange demon are you? I'm so confused. I feel you are good, but your lies frighten me. You said you're alive, but this is not so. If you were alive, you would say you know not of Jesus College. My college was Brasenose, from whence I was expelled for not deleting the Pope's name. If you don't explain your ignorance to me, then I must make an end to my words with you. This would cause me much despair. Lucas.
We didn't challenge him about Jesus College. He was testing us. He thinks we are the hoaxers.
How about that one? That's pretty cool, huh?
Peter, morning.
It could be a hoax, Ted. You know, I just don't know. It's crazy.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
So what happens next?
Peter, do you believe in ghosts?
I've never seen one.
You're still checking out the Oxford connection, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to see the librarian at Brasenose tomorrow. And you could check the Society for Psychical Research. I doubt whether they've come across a computer haunting before.
I'll start by checking the names on the roll for that period and see if I can find you your Lucas.
Intriguing, isn't it? I'm pretty sure the language and content are completely authentic. Mind you, if you spot any anachronisms, I'll be grateful for the details.
I have your phone number. Oh, by the way, if you hear from him again, ask him if he's got any overdue library books.
I did see a fair maid who came suddenly to me. I was surely frightened to see her so appear. She briefly caught my sight, her gaze admitting love. What do you want? Asked she. My lips could not respond. Her beauty had stolen my breath away. But then, as she had come, she went, and I was left in that dim firelight, with naught save her golden memory.
Thomas Harden, Dean of Brasenose, 1536.
Are you kidding me?
Expelled for failure to expunge the Pope's name.
That happened.
Lucas says he's been using an alias. He says he's afraid for his soul if he uses his real name, which is Thomas?
Thomas Harden.
And I'm Robin.
Hang on, there's more. He says the sheriff will take him to trial and execution within 7 days unless he can explain Delim's voice, that's the box of lights, that's appeared in his house. They must think he's been dabbling in witchcraft.
If they think he's a witch, they'll burn him at the stake, won't they?
He hasn't finished yet. Jesus, you don't believe this. He says, you say you're from 1985. I thought you were from 2109.
2109.
Your friend who bought me my box of lights.
2109.
Box of lights.
Dear God, you mean he's getting messages from our future?
It seems to be what it means.
Peter, send them a message.
I don't think that's a very good idea.
We can't help Thomas. Perhaps they can. If you won't do it, I will.
Now you tell me this isn't something. When you really start digging into this case, now keep in mind that these people didn't even want their faces shown in this, that these are actors. They were on the set, you know, giving all their information, consultants. At the end, they interview them from the back because they don't want their faces. The guy did write a book, but again, 2 books, second printing. You don't get rich from writing a book. You know, I'll show you my 1099 for mine that I have to claim. You know, I mean, it's and the time it takes and the amount of time, the whole shebang. So they don't do a lot of interviews. They didn't try to get, you know, promotion on this. This isn't like the Lutzes here with Amityville. There's no bottle of wine and a conspiracy to make up a story. They had to really get it out of him. This is almost a little over 10 years later, isn't it? 84, 12 years. So there's not a lot of, I think that's where it went wrong. After this one, there's not a lot of documentaries. Then you start getting into the podcasting times is when you start getting this. The Unsolved Mysteries, I believe, those kind of shows did little shorts on it, but they really focused on a couple of the first messages. You really didn't even get the whole gist of it. This actually got into where it was like automatic writing. There was messages being left on paper. It got intense. And there was a lot of things happening, like the guy that was helping him at the university, walking through the library, the book falls down. It's open to the part that actually has the history of this guy. I mean, it's an incredible story. It's almost too full of paranormal, supernatural kind of, and the time travel, the future, prediction kind of stuff. It's very interesting. Why people lean more towards, when telling this story, that it's more alien, extraterrestrial born information rather than ascended beings, but maybe in a lot of ways those are similar. I don't know, but here we go. Let's finish it. Isn't it cool? I know, it's quite the story. And often we're robbed of the details. This is very interesting. Not to mention, this guy might very well be getting ready to get burnt by this in real time. Now, mind blown again. Here he is in the 1500s. Was he burnt at the stake for being a witch? Because he's got this box of lights in his time in the 1500s, very much like, who was persecuted? Was it Plato, Galliano, Michelangelo, Leonardo? Weren't they all persecuted for their beliefs and their inventions and their thoughts and their wild ideas about, the earth and the stars and all that kind of stuff? Probably all of them. Who got their finger cut off or given the middle finger? Or am I thinking of Jerry Garcia? All right. Well, not the same people. Anyway, I'm sure the chat will clear it up. Here we go.
Well, I'm sorry we didn't get any messages from either the past or the future. That's about par for the course.
Doesn't the SBR ever find anything?
I wouldn't say that. We quite often detect an obvious fraud, but when nothing at all happens, there's not much we can do. Perhaps they burned your Lucas.
We have to be careful. Science says this is simply not possible.
I didn't say it was possible. I just said it happened.
I can't believe he's dead.
If Thomas was in prison, he wouldn't be able to communicate, would he?
That's a good point.
There must be something we can do.
You've changed your tune.
Maybe I have.
And 2109?
No, I can't say I'm sorry not to hear from them. Oh, come on. Let's go to the pub.
Let's all go to the pub.
What?
There's a message, a long one.
Ken, Deb, Peter.
Thomas, he's alive.
I don't know. I think it's from 2109.
You have two choices. One, that we explain this experiment, but cause what should not be to happen. Or two, understand that you have a purpose that shall change the face of history. We, 2109, must not affect you directly, but guide you and allow room for your own destiny.
That's bullshit.
Calm down.
Calm down? Thomas is in trouble. Might even be dead. We've got a computer that's doing Star Trek impressions. I don't believe in destiny and all that crap.
It makes a kind of sense. We are Thomas's future, they're our future.
They? Who are they?
What is our name? Too perfect that we make mistakes. As we must have a character, a movement that casts no shadows. thought without anguish, love without passion, hate without anger, wars without lives lost. How can we love any? We are many, but no more than one under time to come.
The last message we thought was from Thomas.
You mean it's not?
A man called Falshurst.
Falshurst? Who's he?
Remember the sheriff? It's him. Here's the translation.
Lucas didn't cry for mercy before the court. Instead, he said the box of lights could only have come from God. But I ask you, are you demons?
You checked him out? Absolutely. According to the records, Falshurst was involved in some kind of conspiracy against the king.
And he's still the sheriff?
They don't know about it yet.
But if they did, he'd be dropped right in it, wouldn't he? Will you do it, Peter? You're better at the lingo than I am.
He's answered.
My most noble Peter, if you swear not to use your power, then I shall free Lucas within the hour.
Peter did it. It worked.
I beg your forgiveness, but I meant him no harm. I shall do this, for you are my friends.
What a creep.
My good friends, I do weep so much that I can be with my friends again. It's a pity that I can't hold you to my breast. I know you as well as my own family since your time opened up to me. But I must move on soon. It's best, since the people of Dodleston no fear me. Thomas.
Now he has to move out of his town because the people fear
Without
him.
knowledge, you have fear. With fear, you create your own nightmares.
Dad?
2109.
Did y'all catch that? Now you tell me that's not coming from an enlightened being. You know, again, could it be demons telling us to keep our chins up and they can't give us answers because they can't affect our destiny? We have to, they can ease us, they can kind of guide us, but they can't make decisions for us. And then they give you drop a piece of wisdom like this. I'm going to replay that little part right there. Is it here? Right there. Listen to that again.
Without knowledge, you have fear. With fear, you create your own nightmares.
Dad?
2109.
2109. I'll take it. Tell me that's not a haunting.
We are not in control of poltergeist activity. We are not here to play games. We are detectives. We watch and react accordingly in the vertical plane. The flower reaches to
In a vertical plane, we watch, watchers, we watch and we act accordingly from a vertical plane. Man, if this is true, if there's any truth fact to this at all, what a profound statement that is. Are there watchers in a vertical plane? We're always talking about vibrations and levels and all these dimensions, right? And we're talking about parallel universe and time is linear. And we've talked about the book and the pages bleeding together being wet and the words bleeding into each side. Is that what's happening here? Because of the ley lines, maybe because of the rock and the stone, maybe because of the connection with this light box. What the hell is this box of lights? Did 2109 go back to some guy in the 1500s and say, here's a box of lights. You can communicate with other people in here in the future. It's insane. But if we're to believe this and take it at face value, this guy just went before his sheriff of the 1500s, where they'd draw and quarter you on a Tuesday afternoon before lunch. They had no problem throwing everybody on a pile and just chicken a match, So this guy goes in, and as I'm hearing this story, I'm picturing things like Leonardo going before the court and trying to explain his wild ideas. And this guy, if this happened, he did the same thing. And he's saying that this box came from God, like the burning bush type of thing. But in the 1500s, where he is, what can he get away with here? And I can't imagine him walking away from that, getting released from prison. It's an amazing story, And again, is it any harder to believe than some of the other things you've heard? For Pete's sakes, Columbus saw UFOs on his way here, landed in, Florida area or whatever, bumped into people, called us Indians, thought he was in India, took a bunch of people back for slaves, threw them before the queen and said, look what we found. They weren't doing anything. We claimed that land for you. And here, we brought you some as pets. And we have parades for him. So if I can believe that kind of stuff, we got some wacky history going on. So why not? And this looks like a regular haunting to me, with the add-on of this communication back and forth and this futuristic time slip. It's amazing. It's got everything.
Safe are the bodies of the satellite on work. We are stopping the communication with Thomas.
Babe, you will stay with Thomas all night. I have a new mattress and new blankets on my bed. Come. Sit here with me, pretty Debbie. Don't be frightened. Be cold. Your perfume haunts my house. Your hand, softer than any fair hand. You'd be unreal. Not only for your unnatural beauty, but also that you make me 400 years too old for you, mate. One day, Debbie will know Thomas as nothing but history. Am I to live knowing nothing else? Forgive me, Debbie. I am but foolish.
Welcome in, Marie. Yep. Exactly. Possible. These were dreams she had. He was visiting in the dreams.
Before you could run, you could walk. I'm fascinated that 2109 claims to be composed entirely of tachyons.
Whatever they are.
Well, they're theoretical, or rather conjectural. Particles without mass. They can travel faster than the speed of light.
Yes. So?
Well, if they can travel faster than the speed of light, they can travel through time.
I've set up the new test. I've typed in a list of questions for 2109, which only I know. We'll seal the kitchen for 1 hour, then I'll erase the questions, okay? If you get an answer, then you'll have some proof.
So what can we do?
I want all three of you to stay in here where we can see you, please.
You still think we're having you on?
Deb. John, certain words from that time are only used at certain places and at certain times. It takes me weeks to cross-check the language on one of these, and they come every day. It'd take months to compose one of these from scratch. How can it be a hoax?
We have a routine to follow.
Sarah, oh
And
my
does it
God.
answer the questions or not?
Your 2109 obviously knew what the questions were. I think we'd like you to send them another message.
So they're a bit less smug about it than they were then, are they?
Not before time. John's asked us to ask them another question. The solution to Fermat's last theorem.
What's that?
It's a complicated mathematical puzzle. Never been solved.
This is almost like early AI kind of thing to me. See what you see where I'm going? Think about it.
Left it on the screen for you.
We wonder how much David would like the answer to this question if he knew the consequences. We know your deepest fear. Before we tell you, do you swear to grant us a wish?
And I wrote that back. If it be in our power so to do, and that we do not lose our bodies, minds, and souls to you.
Is that it? Did you drag us down here for this?
Then let the man who is willing to lose these step forward.
Whoa.
No death.
Come on, John. You've never believed any of it anyway. You do it.
I would have noped myself right out of that one.
My true fellows and sweet maid, I go now to Oxford to write my book about my brothers and maid, and of our love for each other. I shall not go to my God until it is written. I write this in the hope that my dear friends will one day find this book. For on that day our lands may not be so distant, and we shall all be truly embraced across the centuries. Thomas.
It's a fascinating tale. Dr. Richard Wiseman went to see Ken, Debbie and Peter Trinder to try to find some answers.
This case is impressive because we have some hard evidence to examine. Between 200 and 300 messages apparently written by a man in 1546. Clearly there are only two options. Either the messages are genuine or they're not. And if they're not, then it's a hoax. I spoke to Ken and Debbie about the events which took place in Meadow Cottage 10 years ago. Since then, they've made new lives for themselves and don't wish to be identified.
Do you think there could be a normal explanation for what was going on?
I'm sure there will be a normal explanation, but not currently, no. I mean, I'm as puzzled as the next person as to what was happening. All I managed to do was to record what happened.
Was there one particular event that convinced you it was paranormal?
Although lots of people find the poltergeist activity interesting, what was meaningful to me was the messages, which were over 16 months, and the communication with a real person.
Ken's friend Peter Trinder was checking the messages' authenticity.
If somebody was doing this as a hoax, they would have had to do one hell of a lot of research to organise this. All right, it could have been done. Somebody spent a long time doing this in advance. But what for?
Could it have been a kind of
I really
inside
like him,
job
Peter
because
Trinder.
yourself, Ken and Debbie had access to this information? Maybe one of the three of you was hoaxing it.
Well, if it were me, of course, yes, it would have been done. But I would know. There would be no point in the whole thing. I can honestly say it wasn't me. I mean, but you believe or you don't believe. I knew that it wasn't me. And I did not believe that it could be Ken. Of course, always from the start. That was the assumption I started with when he first gave me this strange piece of paper over the school dinner table one day. and said, do you understand this? And I said, well, let me take it home and have a look at it, knowing I got the dictionary. And I thought, well, now, this dictionary will soon prove that this is a bit of silly nonsense. But of course it didn't.
Peter has examined the words which make up the messages, but I wanted to find out if other aspects of the language might provide important clues.
Looking at the verb structure, there are things which Lucas says that would not have been said in 1546. It's true that individuals can make up individual words, but we don't make up our verbs. It's possible, or it was possible in England in 1546 to say I do, thou dost, he, she or it doth, he, she or it does. But it wasn't possible to say I doth, or he, she or it dost. Now, all the way through Lucas's messages, he mixes and messes up these suffixes with the wrong subject.
Do you think it's some kind of hoax or forgery?
Well, it's certainly, if it's meant to look like early modern English writing, it doesn't even look close.
So do you think it's a sophisticated hoax by somebody who has a background in modern English?
No, if somebody had a background in early modern English writing, their hoax would look a lot better than this. I mean, they would get their verbal inflections correct. They wouldn't choose vocabulary that came from a period long before the period that this is supposed to have been written in. They'd do it a lot better.
We've had the...
I think that's a very big point. They would do it a lot better if it was a hoax. So do we have a case here where if we take this as fact, if we take this that it actually happened the way we're being portrayed, and this again is like one of the closest ones to the actual time, and I like to go back to those. I know it's old and I'm sorry about the sound, and of course it was taken off of TV, so it's not HD, but going back closer to the time it actually happened is a lot better than getting all this sludge that's left over now that's just researched off of things that were invented or dropped. You know, if you notice in here, they don't even go into the footprints, which is one of the first things that, you know, again, walking up a wall, and they had 6 toes. And I don't know why in the messages, nobody ever sat back and said, who was the person who was here? Or maybe the person leaving the footprints with the 6 toes. And if he had said, I have 6 toes on my right foot, or blah, 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 I think it would have added even more to it, why we missed that whole thing. Or if the university thought it was so wild a claim, they took it out, because they do this. People with, how do we put it? When you start getting into that social educational ladder where you start getting all your degrees and you have your theories and you have to stay in that lane, you tend to take out the really wild and crazy stuff because you want the more structured things to be believed. I think that that's a disservice to the story. I think you throw everything in as it happened, the way it happened, because you cannot learn from something that has been doctored and changed and, you know, screwed around with, like the Zapruder film. If you knew how long that film was held back and whose hands it was in and for how long and how much the time changed and the frames and everything else, you wouldn't look at something today that's a short clip of the Zapruder film and say that's evidence, because it's been doctored, it's been changed, shadows been added, things have been manipulated, and they want it to fit a narrative to further confuse you from the crazy shit that really did happen. And that's how all of these psyops work. So here you have a university, you have a lot of people. This guy, I like this dude. He's really trying to get to it. But most of the people that, like the young lady they were just talking to about the language, I have to look at it and say, well, how do you know this guy just didn't have, you know, I hear about my grammar, my spelling, my punctuation all the time. I don't care. Grammar Nazis, beware. I don't give a shit. I'm at the point now where I do the best I can. I'm going to make mistakes and do typos and do all this. If that's all you got from what I wrote, I probably don't want to have a conversation with you, really. Anyhow, I think that people are putting a little too much on the fact that this guy might have moved around. He might have picked up a little slang. We do it all the time. You know, you read something, you start using some of the words that were new to you, and you add it to your vocabulary once you read a good novel, those kind of things. So I think you're putting a little bit too much emphasis on certain things. There's nothing that they came up with that would completely throw it out. There's so many things that show the other. So weighing this case, I would say, you know, there's more evidence that it happened than it was a hoax, in my theories, my opinion. What's yours?
Lucas's messages analysed by two experts. They have said that these are definitely not from the 16th century. They are like 20th century hoaxes. They don't have the right feel about them grammatically to be from the 16th century. What would you say to that?
I'd be interested to see the detail of it. This is, of course, what you, in many ways, you'd expect this sort of reaction. I suppose there's an academic in the land who would say, this is real. Not anybody wanted to keep their position.
This is a BBC Model B, like the one that Ken and Debbie used. I used to have one myself in the 80s, and so I know what they can and cannot do. When you switch them off, all of the information in the memory is wiped. And so it seems unlikely that somebody would have planted the messages on the computer before Ken brought it home from school.
With the messages, were there any occasions when it couldn't have been Ken and yourself, that somebody looked at the computer, then walked out, shut the room, kept an eye on Ken and yourself, walked back in and saw a message?
Obviously, in the beginning, we wanted to eliminate ourselves. Ken would go miles and miles away. He may be with friends. I would sit with various people. Some people I'd only met once. And they put a question on the computer, and a message came. And all the time, I was in one room, never entering the room where the computer was at any time, always in view. And also, with Ken being clearly not there, it eliminated him as well.
So who could have been planting these messages? Dr. Wright suggested one way in which the language might help us find out. She compared the messages from Lucas with the descriptive passages from Ken's book. She took a 500-word sample from both Lucas and Ken and looked at how many times they used an adjective in front of a noun. Ken used one 26.6% of the time, Lucas 26% of the time. And that's not just the percentage for everyone writing around the time Ken wrote his book, 1986. She checked that by looking at some journalism and also a romantic novel, both written then. They both used adjectives in front of nouns around 32 to 35% of the time.
We've always really rather hoped for some constructive comments about it. And in the light of something I've heard today about language and about its construction being possibly similar to my own construction, this is particularly remarkable since I wasn't in the building, as I say, for something like 4/5 of the occasions when messages are appeared.
It was very real. That's all I'm saying, Richard. It was very close. The kind of thing that you could not doubt. But all the time one was aware of the possibility of hoax. But if it was a hoax, by golly, it was brilliant.
It's brilliant.
It's a strange sort of question. Did you hoax it yourselves? Because we were the only people with the opportunity. But to be honest, this phenomenon has a built-in endpoint. Simply that if somebody comes across and finds Thomas's book, if somebody finds that, well, these sorts of discussions become irrelevant, and I'm really quite happy to wait until that point to sort all that finer detail out.
Richard also spoke to the two investigators from the Society for Psychical Research who chose not to appear on camera. They too thought it was a hoax, but had no idea how it was done.
Well, there you go. There's a story. And I think that is a really good representation of what actually went down. There are some longer versions out there. Like I said, there's some better versions as far as, newer, something we'd be, a little more familiar with, like Unsolved Mysteries, or, later on, a lot of podcasts picked it up. It's an interesting story. However, I think we don't do the story justice when we leave out all the poltergeist activity, the footprints that would not go away when cleaned, like they'd wash them off the wall. Again, one of the first things that started to happen, and they'd come back. He'd paint over them. and then new ones would appear. Sometimes those would reappear through the paint. They were going through all that kind of stuff. Very frustrating type of things. They portrayed in there when she saw Thomas Lucas. Basically, those were coming in her dreams. I think he really was trying to communicate with her as well, on different levels. It kind of looked a little perverted there because he just was not used to all of the, the way they spoke, the way they carried on, the way, the whole thing. Very interesting. They didn't even, in this story, they didn't bring up the whole part where the red stone found the foundation later. I don't know how long after the incident that was. I think it was just a few months. I don't think it was years. So I can't say that it hadn't happened yet. Again, I will recommend a couple of different places to watch a little bit more in depth in this story. I think, again, Y-Files. He does a great job, him and his team. He's got a whole big old team there. So they can do deep research in history and lots of really great video, AI video and things like that, voiceovers and stuff. So very entertaining, very in-depth, very well done. There's one that some of the people that posted these stories, and again, this was done over 3 different times. This show came on. I forget the name of the show. Out of This World, I think it was. 1996. And they recommended this one, which I will bring up for you. And that way, if you want to go and see it on YouTube, it is there for you. Okay. Yep, this is it. So we'll just look at a minute or two of this.
And the spring of 19... Between December 1984 and the spring of 1987, a gentleman named Ken Webster received numerous messages on his BBC Micro Model B. These messages, which at first seemed to be a prank or quirk of the computer, quickly grew into a strange time-defying communication with a man from the 16th century named Lucas. This might be dismissed as a simple ghost story or urban legend had the details not been so difficult to explain away. Thankfully, Ken chronicled the events in this book, The Vertical Plane, published in 1989, a tome that's so rare that this one cost me £165 to get hold of. But despite its relative obscurity, the events were so compelling they were subject to various investigations by official bodies and even featured in an episode of Out of This World from 1996.
Which you just watched.
To this day, they've never really been explained. Now, before we get into it, I'd like to draw your attention to a place where you can find equally as fascinating documentaries. Thank you to sponsor CuriosityStream for making this video possible, a subscription-based streaming service that offers
Wow. Okay. That's wild. What happened? I just lost my whole screen. Can you guys still hear me? I know it's an incredible story. I don't know if you guys can still hear me. I don't know what just happened. My whole screen went black. Are we dead? Yep, we're froze. Okay. Let me see if this works. You can hear me? Okay. So we're just going to say no. I don't know what happened. My whole screen just disappeared. I got total black, and on my YouTube and on my Rumble, it looks froze. So we're just going to say goodnight. I'm going to try to play a thing on the way out. Nope, I can't get anything on here. I don't know what happened. I don't know how to get back. The whole screen just went. So much for StreamYard doubling your prices. StreamYard, what are you doing to me? You're killing me, StreamYard. You're killing me. You're breaking my heart. You're breaking my heart. All right. So choo-choo, Ted. I love you so much. If you can, I'm here. You can hear. It's crazy. I only had this happen once before. And again, I have no idea what's going on. Everything, the only thing I can see right now is a totally blank screen and your chat and the chat coming up. This is great. So good night, everyone. I love you so much. And thank you for being here tomorrow night. I don't know what Steve and I are going to talk about, but if you're the praying kind, now would be the time for tomorrow. Please hope everybody is safe, and all the people that are celebrating get home safe, and let this be a year of healing and peace. There's some hostages that have come home, oddly, very much like when Carter left and Reagan came in. It amazes me, some of the patterns that we repeat, and I see them, and I'm not sure what's up, but I can tell you that I feel that the energy is lifting. We are by no means through the tunnel yet, but I can see the light. And in, great light worker fashion, it could very well be a freaking train. So keep your seatbelts on, keep your lights on, and keep your spirits high, because this is what we were born for. And like Joan of Arc said, I'm not afraid. I was born for this. I love you all. Put the prayers up, put the good energy out, and I will see you tomorrow night. And hopefully by then we'll be well on our way to a more peaceful time. And I think we missed a lot of big catastrophes. I know of several myself, and we have been very blessed with some miracles that a lot of people may never hear of. But just know they're out there. And it is up to us to bring the light, bring the healing, bring peace, help our neighbors, guide the batshit crazy. And if they're, just let them fly it out. Eventually they'll bang into a tree and be stunned enough to listen. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, you understand what I mean. This is our time. We were born for this, and I'm here for it. And I love you all. See you tomorrow night. Good night, everybody. Sorry about the music. Unbelievable. Thanks, StreamYard. We love you.